So before we get into sequences, I want to go over formulas and how we use them. So I've got one formula here, velocity. To find it, we need the final position minus the initial position divided by time. So we have three numbers here, and notice that we have 4 spots. So we use 3 of them to calculate the fourth. So this one, initial position, will go right there. The final position will go before it, and the time will go. So once I have that, I know that velocity is what I'm calculating. I just put a V to represent velocity. So the key thing about this one, and the reason I want to go over it, notice that there's a long division sign. Now we know we need to use bed mass, order of operations, to determine what we do first. But the thing is, division comes before subtraction. But what we need to know is there's invisible brackets. Anytime we have the long division sign, invisible brackets top and bottom. I don't need to put it on the bottom of this square. There's only one number. So knowing that, I'm going to do this first, then divide by 13. And it's meters divided by second or meters per second. So the key thing is, when all the numbers are together, we're going to focus on bed mass. And remember, invisible brackets when we have a long division. So we're going to try this one now. We've got 3 numbers. We have to find where they go in each formula. So the start is the initial, so I'll put that in. Velocity is actually the answer. A lot of people get messed up. We know the answer, and the time is 24 seconds. So I'll put that in. Now the one thing we don't know is the final position. So this one's different. We've got the unknown mixed in with the numbers, but we have the answer. So for this one, we're actually going to use SAMDEP, which is bed mass backwards. When we're doing algebra, we have to move the numbers over one at a time. Now the key thing is the order. Which ones do we do first? So we're going to start with subtraction and addition. But the key thing with this particular formula, anytime we have a long division sign, we have invisible brackets. So even though we have subtraction, we're going to skip that one because it's inside the bracket, and we're going to start with the division. So this one, 24, we're dividing by 24. We will multiply. The opposite of division is multiplication. We do it to both sides. And when we take seconds and multiply this, they cancel out. We're left with 180 meters. Keep in mind that the brackets do go around this, but because nothing is left outside the brackets, they just disappear. Now we can do the subtraction. The opposite is addition, and we get our answer. So the key thing is, do the opposite, do it to both sides. And we know we're going to do algebra or SAMDEP when the letter is mixed in with the other numbers. One other point I wanted, always move the numbers away from the F. Never take this one and move it towards the F. Always away. Okay, to make things a little more complicated, sometimes we actually have to do both. We have to use bed mass and SAMDEP in the same question. So the key thing is we always start with bed mass. And we're going to keep going until we actually run into a calculation with a letter. So take this one for example. We always start with the brackets. 8 minus 1, both are numbers. We start with that. The next step is multiplication. Both are numbers, so we can multiply. And we get to this point where we can't add an n plus a 49. As soon as you reach that letter, we have to stop and we switch to SAMDEP. Now there's only one step left. We use algebra to find the answer. So the key thing is bed mass until we get stuck, then algebra. Do the opposite, do it to both sides. So this one here, start with the brackets. And I'm not going to write the multiplication sign, but it is multiplying there. As soon as we get here, we get multiplications next. I'm stuck. I've got the letter. I can't do it. Now, do not add these numbers together. Cannot add before multiplying. So I'm stuck. I'm going to switch to SAMDEP. SAMDEP tells me to look for adding, subtracting. So I'm going to move the 18 first. I don't want to move the 31 first. Always start with adding, subtracting. Only once the adding, subtracting is done, I've got multiplication. The opposite is division. And once I've got that, I end up with my answer. So the key thing is we did BEDMAS until we came to the letter. Now we can't do adding before multiplication. I'm stuck. So I switch to SAMDEB. I'm using algebra. I always start with the adding, subtracting, and do the opposite. Then divide to get rid of the multiplication.